Okay, let's dive right into this because before we look anywhere else in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we really have to look at what is probably the most incredible evolution of a character we've ever seen on screen. We're tracking the complete, continuous narrative of how a kid from Queens evolved from this starry-eyed teenager into the ultimate, completely self-reliant hero. You know, this isn't just your standard superhero origin story. It's an absolute masterclass in character development, staggering sacrifice, and what it truly means to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. So lock in for this explainer because we're tracing Peter Parker's massive journey from his very first appearance all the way to the literal reality-shattering events of No Way Home.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly where the whole shebang began. Now, what's really fascinating about this timeline is just how early Peter's destiny got tied to Tony Stark. It actually started way back at the Stark Expo during Iron Man 2. Remember that little kid who bravely stood up to a rogue Justin Hammer drone before Tony blasted away? Yeah, that was Peter. Fast forward a few years, and Peter is already operating as the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man after the tragic loss of Uncle Ben. But then he gets thrust onto the massive global stage. Because of all the destruction from previous Avengers battles, world governments push the Sokovia Accords. Tony Stark desperately needs backup against Captain America's rogue faction, so he recruits this kid. Suddenly, Peter goes from stopping local bike thieves to literally fighting Cap in Germany. But once the dust settles, Tony just drops him back off in Queens. Desperate to prove he actually belongs in the big leagues, Peter starts investigating a highly dangerous black market ring that's scavenging leftover alien tech from the Chitauri invasion.
So the absolutely crucial point here is how this era perfectly defines Peter's core struggle with identity. He becomes completely reliant on the incredible high-tech Stark suit. He basically views it as the source of his power, totally neglecting the scrappy, street-level resilience that built his original homemade Queen suit. And well, this overconfidence leads to a massive disaster on the Staten Island ferry. His attempt to stop a weapons deal completely solo results in the ferry literally splitting in half. Iron Man has to swoop in and save the day. The fallout from this? It's brutal. Tony strips Peter of the high-tech suit, delivering that iconic, harsh lesson. If he's nothing without the suit, he shouldn't have it at all. It strips Peter down to his absolute core. This newly uncovered vulnerability brings him face to face with his first true solo threat, Adrian Toomes, the Vulture. Now, Toomes was just a regular guy who lost his salvage contract to Stark's damage control. To save his employees' livelihoods, Toomes went underground, building devastating weapons from that Chitauri tech and constructing a terrifying flying exosuit. But the massive, jaw-dropping revelation that turns this from a standard superhero battle into a literal personal nightmare hits on the night of the homecoming dance. Peter arrives to pick up his crush, Liz, only to discover that Adrian Toomes is her dad. No way, right? In one of the most tense car rides in cinematic history, Toomes pieces together Peter's secret identity and threatens to kill everyone he loves. Peter is forced to abandon his normal life, ditch the dance, and face down a terrifying villain wearing nothing but a pair of goggles and a hoodie. He wins, finally realizing that he, not the Stark tech, is Spider-Man, and he ultimately turns down Tony's offer to officially join the Avengers. But man, that hard-earned peace doesn't last long at all. Just 2 years later, the universe faces its absolute darkest hour. The Mad Titan Thanos successfully gathers all 6 Infinity Stones. His twisted, insane goal to solve overpopulation by wiping out exactly 50% of all life in the universe with a single snap of his fingers. And he actually succeeds. The Avengers lose. In a moment that completely shattered audiences around the globe, Peter Parker turns to dust right in the arms of his mentor. Half of the universe just gone. Let's move forward and see how this builds, because the world sat in that crippling grief for 5 incredibly long years. Eventually, the remaining Avengers formulate this completely wild, almost impossible plan, a time heist. They travel back through alternate timelines to borrow the Infinity Stones and use them in their own reality to reverse Thanos' snap. And against all odds, the plan miraculously works. Everyone who was dusted, including Peter Parker, is suddenly brought back to life, stepping right into the greatest battle the universe has ever seen against a past version of Thanos and his massive alien army. Peter is back in the fight, but the cost of this victory is just unimaginable. To finally defeat Thanos and save the universe once and for all, Tony Stark uses the Infinity Stones himself. Peter is forced to watch as the man who discovered him, mentored him, and basically acted as a father figure lays down his own life. This devastating sacrifice leaves a massive void in the world and an even bigger one in Peter's heart. He attends the funeral completely broken, carrying a profound grief that sets the stage for literally everything that comes next. Now, why does this matter for you to remember?
because Peter is now operating completely without a safety net, carrying the immense legacy of Earth's greatest defender on the shoulders of a high schooler. 8 months later, the entire world is asking who the next Iron Man will be, and Peter is absolutely buckling under that intense pressure. I mean, all he wants is a normal school trip to Europe so he can finally confess his feelings to MJ. But Nick Fury tracks him down and hands him Tony Stark's final gift, Edith. This is a highly advanced artificial intelligence hidden in a pair of sunglasses, granting the user complete access to Stark's global security network, which happens to include a fleet of lethal orbital combat drones. Handing this immense, world-ending power to an overwhelmed, grieving teenager, yeah, it leads to immediate disaster. When Peter accidentally orders a drone strike on his classmate Brad just to delete an embarrassing photo, he realizes he is entirely unready for this level of responsibility. And that exact vulnerability makes him the perfect target for Quentin Beck, also known as Mysterio. Beck claims to be this seasoned hero from an alternate dimension fighting destructive elemental monsters. Peter, who is just so desperate for a mentor and a break from his superhero duties, gladly signs over control of EDI Teeth to Beck. But it was a brilliant and utterly ruthless deception. Beck wasn't from the multiverse at all. He was an illusion expert who got fired by Tony Stark for unstable behavior. Using incredibly advanced hologram projectors, Beck literally faked all the elemental attacks. His master plan was to steal EDI Teeth, use the Stark drones to make his holographic monsters even more realistic and deadly, and pose as Earth's brand new greatest superhero. Peter only figures out the truth when MJ, who casually reveals she already knows he's Spider-Man by the way, shows him a piece of a holographic projector she found. Realizing he handed Stark's most dangerous tech to a literal madman, Peter confronts Mysterio in London. Beck uses the drones and holograms to trap Peter in this terrifying, reality-bending nightmare, and here is the massive turning point in Peter's evolution. He stops relying on his physical eyes. He centers himself, trusts his own instincts, his spider sense, or the Peter tingle, as Aunt May called it, and fights blindly through the illusions. He systematically destroys the drones and defeats Beck, who is fatally struck by a misfired bullet from his own machines.
You would think Peter finally gets a break after all that, right? Wrong. Quentin Beck had a terrifying contingency plan. As his dying act, Mysterio releases a highly doctored video framing Spider-Man for the London drone attacks and for his murder. And worse, the video is broadcast globally by J. Jonah Jameson of the Daily Bugle. For the very first time, Peter Parker's secret identity is exposed to the entire world. Pure chaos ensues. The FBI investigates him and his loved ones, and the massive public controversy causes Peter, MJ, and his best friend Ned to be rejected from every single college they apply to. It is a total disaster. Seeing his friends' lives completely ruined because of him, Peter makes a really desperate choice. He asks Doctor Strange to cast a spell to make the world forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. But as Strange starts casting it, Peter totally panics. He keeps interrupting, constantly changing the rules so MJ, Ned, and Aunt May can retain their memories. This rapid modification makes the spell incredibly unstable. Strange manages to contain it, but not before the multiverse rips open. Because the spell was targeting people who know Peter Parker is Spider-Man, it pulls in deadly enemies from across the multiverse who know that exact secret. Suddenly, their reality is invaded by Dr. Octopus, the Green Goblin, Sandman, the Lizard, and Electro. Talk about a bad day. Peter and Strange manage to capture them, but a massive moral dilemma splits the two heroes right down the middle. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the absolute core of who Peter Parker is. Peter learns that sending these villains back to their home universes means sending them to the exact moment they died fighting their respective Spider-Man. Doctor Strange argues that this is just their fate. The natural order of the multiverse shouldn't be altered. But Peter, who is deeply guided by Aunt May's belief in second chances, flat out refuses to act as an executioner. He actually steals Strange's magical ring, traps the Sorcerer Supreme in the mirror dimension, and decides to do the impossibly difficult thing: use science to cure these villains of their powers and their madness before sending them home safely. He starts by fixing Doc Ock's inhibitor chip, but things go catastrophically wrong shortly after. Norman Osborn's dark alter ego, the Green Goblin, takes over and sabotages the whole operation. A brutal, devastating fight breaks out, leading to the most tragic moment in Peter's life. The Green Goblin attacks Aunt May with his glider. In her final moments, she doesn't tell Peter to run, and she definitely doesn't tell him to seek revenge. She tells him that trying to help those villains was the right thing to do. And then she delivers the defining lesson of his entire life. With great power, there must also come great responsibility.
May dies right there in Peter's arms, leaving him completely shattered. Just as Peter is consumed by this heavy darkness and a real desire to murder the Green Goblin, something miraculous happens. Ned, who's been messing around with Doctor Strange's stolen sling ring, actually manages to open a portal. But it's not their Peter who walks through. It's an older, alternate universe Peter Parker. And then he opens another one, and another Peter steps through. These two variant Spider-Men, who have faced their own massive, heartbreaking losses and battled their own demons of vengeance, find this universe's Peter grieving alone on a rooftop. They share their own profound pain and manage to convince him that taking revenge won't fix a single thing. They help him honor Aunt Lee's final wish to cure the villains, not kill them. Working as a team, the three Spider-Men develop cures for everyone and lure the remaining villains to the Statue of Liberty. In a spectacular final battle, they successfully cure Sandman, Lizard, Electro, and Doc Ock, but the tension skyrockets when the Green Goblin finally arrives. During the fight, the Goblin manages to blow up the magical containment box holding Doctor Strange's botched spell. The fabric of reality literally tears open. The sky fractures with these massive, glowing purple cracks, and every single being across the entire multiverse who knows Peter Parker's secret identity begins pushing their way through into this world. Doctor Strange is struggling, but he just can't hold them back. Reality is literally collapsing. And this is where Peter makes the ultimate heartbreaking sacrifice. To save the universe and stop the multiversal invasion, he tells Doctor Strange to cast a new spell, but not to make people forget he's Spider-Man. He tells Strange to make the entire universe forget that Peter Parker ever existed. Strange warns him that absolutely no one will remember him. Not MJ, not Ned, no one. Peter accepts the cost. The spell is cast, the multiversal rifts close up, the alternate Peters and the cured villains are sent home, and the universe is saved. But Peter Parker is completely erased from the memories of everyone he has ever loved. He tries to go back to MJ and Ned later to explain everything, but seeing them safe, happy, and heading off to college, he makes the crushing decision to let them live their normal lives without the constant danger of Spider-Man. It brings his journey to an incredibly poignant conclusion. Peter is totally alone. He rents a tiny rundown apartment. He has no Stark tech, no billionaire mentor, and absolutely no safety net. He just sits at a sewing machine and stitches together a brand new, classic red and blue suit. He leaps out the window into the snowy New York night, fully self-reliant and finally embracing his ultimate destiny. The kid looking for a mentor is gone. The true, definitive, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man has officially arrived.
But of course, this leaves us with one massive, lingering question. While the multiversal visitors were sent back, Eddie Brock, who briefly blipped into this reality, was also sent home. But he left a tiny, crawling black piece of the Venom symbiote on a bar counter right here in this universe. So what happens to that piece of alien biology? Does it eventually find Peter Parker in his darkest, most isolated hour? The possibilities for the future are literally endless. Thanks so much for watching this explainer, and definitely stay tuned as we keep breaking down the most fascinating corners of the cinematic universe.